Yeah. So this is, wait a minute. What are you reading? Oh, the Book of Booty. Oh, we are on. Our director says we're on. Hello, everyone. Bill Apter down here at Apter's Alley with a very dear friend from another part of the world. As you know, Apter's Alley is down here in the suburbs of Philadelphia in a secret hideaway. Let me adjust my comb over here.
Adjusting mine too.
You're too. This is Mr. Mike Altamira, and Mike is he's a boxing manager, a fight manager. But more importantly than that, back in the days when I was the editor of a British magazine called POW magazine, Mike used to write for us. So welcome down to Apter's Alley. You've never been here before.
It's fantastic to finally be here. I got one question to ask you in opening.
Yes.
Is wrestling fixed, my good man?
I didn't know it was broken. So we are so glad you're here. You came to visit Apter's Alley, but if you're watching in the Philadelphia area, tell them what's going on. One of the other reasons that you're here.
Saturday night, my boxer, Isaac Dogbay, is fighting for the WBO World Junior Featherweight Championship fight.
Yeah.
He's fighting a kid, Jesse Magdaleno, both undefeated fighters. My kid's come all the way from Accra, Ghana, undefeated. Goes live on ESPN at 9 p.m. And it's also, so that's live on TV.
On Saturday night.
But if you can make it to the Alikura Center here in Philly, it would be wonderful to come out and support us. Although, Bill, also tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow.
Big event in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, the WWE greatest Royal Rumble.
The greatest Royal Rumble.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, is it the first time in history there's been a 50-man Rumble?
As far as I know.
At this level. I know Indies have done it.
There have been, years ago, battle royals in 2 rings at the same time that have equaled 50 or more people. But this is the greatest one because it's going to be contained in 1 ring. And my concern is that all these athletes that are over there, that have been transported over there, do you know what the time to travel from wherever they live is to Saudi Arabia? And then maybe with a few hours rest, they have to go in and compete.
Hopefully they travel first class, Bill.
I hope so, too. I know Vince McMahon is already there. I heard that Barack Lesnar is already there. The Undertaker is there for sure. But the question is, you were asking me before we went on here, is in that whole field of competition of 50 wrestlers, who do I think is going to win? Now, don't forget to watch Big Ray's predictions on OneWrestlingVideo.com. He's had thousands and thousands of viewers already. But you want to know who I think is going to win. Yeah,
well, you're the expert analyst in the sport of professional wrestling.
Well, I appreciate that. By the way, he and I go back many years.
1999 AOL chat. So it's been many years.
It's been a while.
I've literally grown up knowing Bill Apter.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's so good to have you here. So here's my prediction. The last 2 guys in the ring, I think, are going to be Braun Strowman and Daniel Bryan. Now, Daniel Bryan is injured, as we saw on SmackDown. Big Cass injured him backstage. But I have a feeling somehow Daniel Bryan and the Yes movement are going to love this, because I think Daniel Bryan is going to wind up winning the greatest Royal Rumble. Do you have a pick?
Do I see Daniel Bryan being the last 2 or 3? Yes.
Okay.
Do I see him winning? No.
So
Braun Strowman for me.
Braun Strowman for you. I mean, it's very difficult to see. I just think that Strowman somehow is going to be, there's going to be 3 or 4 guys in the ring toward the end. And I think it's going to look like Strowman's going to win, but somehow he's going to get screwed and
we'll have to see.
Tossed out. Yes.
It's exciting though. I'm excited for the concept. A fresh environment for the WWE.
Saudi Arabia definitely is.
There's so many resources in that part of the world. Like I told you, I've worked extensively in Dubai.
Yes.
And it's exciting to see the WWE continue to expand in the Middle East as well.
Yeah. Yes.
They could do enormous business.
Oh, definitely. So why don't we do this? I know you've got the card here on your amazing cell phone.
Yes, sir.
So why don't we go over the matches, and you asked me if I would pick some of the winners. So let's go ahead.
We'll see how they stack up.
All right. So let's go back to the old mentality of the wrestling magazines. Let's see how they stack up.
Yeah. It's a very deep card. That's what I told you earlier. I'm very impressed.
Yes.
So you have in a casket match, who else but The Undertaker versus Rusev?
This is a hard pick because it was originally Rusev, then it became Chris Jericho, and then it became Rusev again.
Yep.
Rusev, to me, is still an emerging talent. And I look back at the old days of Bruno Sammartino and Pedro Morales, the guys that headlined at Madison Square Garden, and Rusev would have been a great opponent for either one of those two. 3 matches. I think the WWE has put a lot of time and energy into pushing him with Rusev Day to try and make him a star. So if we're really going to celebrate Rusev Day, that's got to be his day, and somehow he's got to defeat The Undertaker, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'd like to see Rusev Day. Nothing against The Undertaker.
So next up on the card, singles match. John Cena versus Triple H. 2 legends at it.
Man. So 2 legends going at it, as you said, and evenly matched as far as I'm concerned. Even though Triple H has had much less ring time, he still keeps himself in monstrous shape.
Absolutely.
As you know. And he works out in the ring at the Performance Center and other places at home. Equally matched, I'm going to say that John Cena wins this one.
Yeah, I'm rolling with you on that one.
Are you?
Too. Cena. Yep. Okay. Then for the Cruiserweight title, Cedric Alexander versus Kalisto.
I've always loved, as you know, luchadors.
Yeah.
They've always been my favorite type of wrestler. But Cedric Alexander, not to be repetitious, he's at the top of his game, and I think he'll be a little bit better than Kalisto.
Again, I agree with you a little bit. So Cedric on top.
For 3,
Yep. Then SmackDown Tag Team Championship, the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. Usos amongst my favorites in the WWE, I've got to say.
So are you picking the Usos?
Yeah, I'll go out first and say I'm picking them.
Okay, so you pick the Usos. The Bludgeon Brothers are trying to be like the Legion of Doom. And they're better than they were when they were part of the Wyatt family at this point. But I think the Usos have such a passion to win on this large stage, and they're going to be ready for any kind of brutal action that the Bludgeon Brothers are going to give out. But I think after the match, I think the Usos are going to win. But after the match, the Bludgeon Brothers are going to kick their butts.
Yeah, but it's what happens in the match that counts.
Yes,
on record.
Exactly.
So on record, we're both for the Usos, right?
Exactly.
Then the vacant Raw Championship, Tag Team Championship, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy versus Cesaro and Sheamus.
Well, Cesaro and Sheamus are such a great team, and Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are the odd team at this point.
Yep.
But I think Bray Wyatt and his part and Matt Hardy are going to delete Cesaro and Sheamus and win the titles that night.
I'm with you.
I think they're unusual enough to take the championship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
That's another one. We're on the same page again.
So far, so good.
Then United States Championship, Jeff Hardy versus Jinder Mahal. We might be split on this one. We'll see.
Jinder Mahal is so mad, so angry about not having that championship. I think he's going to get it back that night.
I was thinking you're going to go with Hardy. I'm with Mahal too.
No. I
just think that his career has been building back up to a point where he's ready again.
Yeah. Yes. By the way, I am seeing your chat going on here, but as you know, during the magazine podcast, we do this when we have time. We have a loaded show today, so let's go on with tomorrow's predictions. By the way, if you're watching this on the tape replay and the greatest Royal Rumble had already happened, you can see how good or bad we did. Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mike.
All right. So next up, we have WWE Championship match. AJ Styles versus almost my namesake, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes.
Nakamura.
Yes.
Can get confused.
Are you training him?
No. Unfortunately, I'm not Japanese.
No, that doesn't have anything to do with it. But AJ Styles is going to retain the title. Yeah.
I got to go with AJ. It's a shame because
Nakamura
is probably my favorite guy in the WWE right now.
Yes.
He's a fantastic talent, great mentality, always brings it, fun to watch. But yeah, I think AJ's going to retain.
I do too. I think AJ's got to retain because he's been through so much recently, and he's got to make 2 definite wins. And the new Nakamura aggressiveness in the ring isn't going to get him as far as he wants to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then
sayonara.
4-way ladder match for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
The champ, Seth Rollins, going in against Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and The Miz. I mean, if the dynamic's right in that match, what 4 phenomenal talents to have in the one match.
And, everybody I talk to says Finn Balor, it's his time. Finn Balor, it's his time. It's still Seth freaking Rollins' time, as far as I'm concerned. What about you?
I agree again.
Wow.
I agree again.
Wow.
I think we're only split on the greatest Rumble match.
So far.
We'll see. Maybe the next one, maybe. So then, WWE Universal Championship match. You got the champ, Brock Lesnar. Against Roman Reigns. How's this going down, Bill?
The controversy of the way that Roman Reigns lost that match at WrestleMania is just so grating to Roman Reigns. They have to go days away from the United States for Roman Reigns to get this shot in the steel cage match. Roman Reigns' entire background, his entire family are from the wild Samoans all the way up. Roman Reigns has that sense of adventure and that killer instinct in him. And I think in Saudi Arabia, in this steel cage match, the beast in him will come out and he's going to win the title.
Wow, we're split on this one.
Okay, well, tell me why you think Brock Lesnar.
I think Brock has got his number for now. And I think that Reigns' time will come, but maybe another 3, 4, 5 months down the line. I think Brock is still at the height of his powers of this reign.
However, this could take, if Roman Reigns doesn't win, this could actually take him out of being a top contender.
Depends how he loses. Depends, like you said, those stipulations, possible.
Wow. All right. So, again, the greatest Royal Rumble, it starts at noon Eastern time. All you people that are going to be taking off from work or watching it on your devices, are you going to get to see this tomorrow?
Maybe on delay. Not live. Yeah,
well,
we've got to weigh in.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more before we go into the next part of our program. Tell us a little bit more about how you got from wrestling into fight managing.
Well, basically, I'll try to wrap it up in a nutshell. But I was a journalist both sides from when I was a teen. So actually pre-teen and then into my teens, wrestling and boxing. But I was probably more well-known on the boxing and the wrestling front, as a journalist. When I was 17, I was running a boxing website. And I had a little section of boxers available to fight from all around the globe. So I'm running a successful website. So I start getting all random fighters from Panama, from Uganda, from Guyana, sending me messages asking me to manage them, not knowing I'm a 17-year-old kid running a website. So I was like, can I manage? I'll give it a shot. I'm here now 17 years later. I've been blessed to travel the world and make many fantastic friends. And it's unbelievable how much I travel in boxing because a lot of people don't know you spent a considerable amount of time as a ringside photographer, working on content for the old London Press magazines.
Yes.
And Mr. Western before that, right?
Yes.
Is it London Press with Western?
London Publishing, yes.
London Publishing, yeah. And, people ask me in boxing when they find out I got the wrestling connection, hey, do you know Bill Apter?
Wow.
Send him my regards. So it's incredible
crossover. It's family.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely family. So this past week, as you know, and he was very well known in Australia too, because he toured there pretty regularly. We lost one of my personal dearest friends in the business, Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah.
Where did you first learn about Bruno Sammartino?
Bruno was probably, on the run of David. So I watched tapes about 1988.
Yeah.
And seen more him through the run of David Sammartino in the WWF. So I probably didn't catch the best of Bruno at that stage.
Right, right. But you saw him in the magazines.
Yeah, but I'd see him about in the magazines. And then as I got more learned, as I started getting older and started doing the research, I mean, to me, he's got to be amongst the most iconic stars in the history of the business.
Yes, yeah.
Like Bruno in New York was a bigger draw than anyone anywhere in the world, period.
Sure.
Absolutely. And that's boxing, wrestling, anything. His rock star credentials.
He was absolutely huge. And just a little bit later, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking with J.J. Dillon.
Always has to do the Horseman up.
Yeah, but he was one of the few people in the business that knew Bruno, and he was at his funeral. He knew Paul Jones.
Yeah.
And he knew Johnny Valiant.
Yeah, so sad to be losing these figures.
Yeah, and it's terrible. And a lot of fans have said to me, no one's really talked much about Paul Jones or Johnny Valiant. So we're going to do that today. Right now, it's time to go, because I know you were a big fan of the rankings in the magazines. So right now, we're going to go to old Mr. TV, Travis Volt, and listen to this week's Raw rankings based upon this past week. Monday Night Raw. Howdy, TV, are you there?
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Howdy, fans. T-Volt's back again with your audio top 10 for Raw. Wow, are things heating up on Monday Night Raw with returning superstars and NXT call-ups. Let's get started.
The shake-up.
Coming in at number 10, his name is exactly what I said when he debuted on Monday Night Raw. No way! Jose.
Yes. Great
Number
character.
9, returning. Some know him as Brother Nero. Others, Jeff Hardy, who took place in the 6-man tag team main event. Number 8, also taking place in that 6-man tag team event, the leader of the Balor Club, Mr. Finn Balor. Number 7 is Woken Matt Hardy. Will this be his last week in the singles top 10? Is he devoting himself to his new tag team? Time will tell. Number 6, who wants to walk with Elias? Apparently nobody, but everybody wants to beat him up. He's been taking a beating a lot lately, but he is still showcased on a regular basis. Number 5 is former Intercontinental Champion, The Miz. Speaking of former, possibly the former big dog in the yard, Roman Reigns comes in at number 4. Is he still the big dog in the yard? After his verbal tongue lashing he got from Samoa Joe, time's going to tell there as well. Coming in at number 3, a man who continues to grow in popularity, even though he had to relinquish the tag team titles. Watch for big things as a single stars for the monster among men, Braun Strowman.
Your guy.
And
that's my guy.
Watch for big things in the 4th grade from Nicholas. Coming in at number 2 and seems to have a career resurgence, your brand new Intercontinental Champion, Monday Night Rollins himself, burn it down himself, Seth Rollins. Watch for a tremendous Intercontinental title reign out of Seth Rollins. That, of course, leaves us with our number 1 placeholder on your Raw Top 10, and still your Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar.
All right.
What do you think of these top 10, fans? Let me know if you disagree or agree on the Twitter at PW Paper Champion, or give a shout out to Bill Apter himself.
That's me.
Tell him what you think of this top 10. Interesting to see what happens from here on out with all the NXT call-ups and returning superstars. Look for the top 10 to look a lot different next week and the week after with the superstar shakeup. That's it for me, fans. Thanks, and back to you, Bill.
All right, thank you, Travis Volt. He's, by the way, one of our best correspondents. He's all the way out in the Dakotas there.
I see. Not a bad part of the country.
No. So before we get to our first guest, I want to go right now to Ryan Bowman from the Gorilla Position, who has picked this week's Wrestler of the Week. So, Ryan, are you there?
I'm Ryan Billman from thegorillaposition.com, telling the stories of pro wrestling storytellers. Here to present the Apter video podcast, Wrestler of the Week. What a month it's been with WrestleMania, the Superstar Shakeup, and now the Greatest Royal Rumble. Perhaps no wrestler has taken advantage of that momentum or generated more buzz than Bobby Lashley, who's looked awesome in his return to World Wrestling Entertainment. The Dominator, who formed an amazing tag team combination recently with Braun Strowman on Raw, has been wowing the audience with his amazing one-armed vertical suplex, now showing a range of skills that he didn't quite display in his first run with the company. And while he's just now getting his feet wet, it looks like gold is certainly in his future, as he's been nearly untouchable during his WWE comeback. It's likely he will be injected into the main event sooner rather than later. So for all the improvements he's made, for the reaction his return has received, and more importantly, for the potential matchups we now might get to see, Bobby Lashley is this edition's Apter Video Podcast Wrestler of the Week.
Good choice. Good choice. What do you know about, what do you think about, because since you're in the fight game, what do you think of the martial arts people that are, we had Brock Lesnar, we've now got Ronda Rousey.
Yep.
Bobby Lashley was, what's your take on?
It gives a hint of credibility.
Yeah.
I mean, many years ago, you had the credibility of, say, professional wrestlers coming from football backgrounds.
Yes, yeah.
That was, guys that say Wahoo McDaniel, for example.
Ernie Ladd.
The list is endless.
Yeah.
So that was like a great recruiting. You knew they were hardened, tough guys. They fit the image. Now it's going to be a lot of crossover from MMA. So maybe when some of these guys start taking a few too many injuries to compete at the highest level in MMA, then they see a great career ahead of them in the wrestling business. So it's exciting, though. I mean, even like Rousey in the WWE, it gives it a hint of credibility. It injects the women's division. It gives something different for fans.
Absolutely. And it makes wrestling look even tougher than wrestling is.
It gives it a hint of legitimacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Robbie E was supposed to be here at 7:15.
Yep.
He's missed the booking.
He's missed the bus.
Right, he's missed the bus. So I think what we're going to do at this point is get a hold of our other guest. Hang on. By the way, if you see me looking down, it's the Apter phone here. There are people texting me about the show. So hang on a minute. And I want to make sure that we can talk with Travis Volts, Mr. TV said we played the wrong rankings for this week. Travis, I apologize to you. I just called up the first file. So let's rub out those ratings and give me a minute, Mike, and let's see if we can find out the correct ratings for this week. Hold on, Travis. In the meantime, you've never been to Philadelphia before, have you?
This is my first trip here. So, I mean, Philly's got a very rich history in professional boxing.
Yes.
Also, pro wrestling, clearly with the ECW arena, the old the Philadelphia Spectrum.
Yes.
Well, so,
and you got to see the old ECW arena.
Yeah.
Or at least the outside.
And also past the legendary Blue Horizon, which is one of the top boxing venues.
Great. And I shot so much boxing there.
Yeah.
Meantime, let's go to Travis, to T-Volts here, and get his current Raw ratings. It was a good tease before.
Hello, Bill, and howdy, fans, and thanks for turning the audio page to the ranking section. This is old T-Volt.
Actually,
here, and
T-Volt, we've got the wrong rankings here. This
top 10 for this week. Coming in
423, we're good.
10 is Drew McIntyre. What a promo he cut on Monday. But is he a good guy or a bad guy?
I think he's a bad guy.
Coming in at number 9 is his pseudo partner, apparently, Dolph Ziggler. Number 8 is the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley. Where is he going to fit in on Monday Night Raw?
He's climbing.
Number 7 is the overly obnoxious Sami Zayn. That, of course, leads us to number 6, his partner in crime, Kevin Owens.
Tough guy.
Number 5, still, once again, is Elias, who seems to have found a home in the 5-hole. Number 4 is who apparently may be the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental title, Finn Balor. Number 3 is who I believe is the future face of the WWE, Braun Strowman.
Agreed.
Number 2 is the big dog in the yard, Roman Reigns. And if Braun Strowman is the future face of the company, does that mean a turn of the tide for Roman Reigns?
It's a possibility.
And your number 1 of the top 10 is, of course, your Intercontinental Champion, the man with a career resurgence, Mr. Monday Night Rollins himself, Seth Rollins. That leads us to, of course, our Universal Champion heading into the greatest Royal Rumble event, Brock Lesnar.
I like how he says that.
Hey, fans, thanks for listening to Bill Apter and this Top 10. If you have feedback on this Top 10, you can hit me up on the Twitter. I am at PW Paper Champion. Until next time, back to you, Bill.
All right. Thank you, Travis. And my apologies. That's the first time in all the weeks we've done this that has actually happened. And we will look forward to your rankings next week of the correct week. We will pick the correct ones.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Or if the rankings from this week are a little inaccurate, but there's ones from 4 weeks ago that are closer, you can just replay them.
You can keep enjoying
you got them covered either way.
You can keep enjoying that. So what we're going to do right now is, again, we were supposed to have Robbie E on the show, and we haven't heard from him as yet. So we are going to get a hold of our prime guest today. What do you remember about J.J. Dillon, by the way?
Just one of the top heel managers.
Yeah.
And very effective in his presentation. At ringside, great presence. So I'm excited to see what he has to say.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that he was also a really good wrestler. And he told a story last time he was on here about his debut match at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So, and he's been a good friend. So let's give JJ a call because he had that tie-in with the 3 people that we lost fairly recently. Hopefully he's going to pick up. If not, you're our guest, Mike. This is one of those weeks of 2 guests.
Hello, this is James. I'm not available to take your call.
Well, I know he will call back. I have no doubt that he's not going to call back.
Do you want to review the letter in the meantime from JJ?
The what from? Oh yeah, you know what? That would be great because I never show this to anyone on the show here. By the way, some man's calling me a pencil neck geek. Right back at you. So this was because Mike came down to Apter's Alley for the first time. There's a letter that J.J. Dillon sent me from 1993. And because of the lighting, you can't actually see it. And this is mentioned in my book, actually. And this is welcoming me. Well, you can talk about this because you're the one who brought this up.
Yeah, and you see, again, hopefully you can see it's signed right there at the bottom by JJ. The date, March 31, yes. 1993. And like you noted, it's something that is presented in your book in much more detail. So please purchase the book.
Yes.
It's me saying it, not Bill.
Yes, I say it 100 times.
But it's essentially about you acting as a consultant for the Hall of Fame.
Yes, originally,
so He reached out to you. So
what year are we talking about?
It's March 31, 1993.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
So, I mean, they essentially look to get you on board to source items. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I did get them. I got them Buddy Rogers boots, actually, as a start, and several other pieces of memorabilia that I can't remember at the moment. But originally, yes, I was hired part-time by the WWE to procure memorabilia from a lot of the stars.
And it's suggested in this letter, if you don't mind me saying it, that it's an under the radar role. So
yes,
essentially,
yes.
It was never publicly disclosed, publicly known.
There was no internet back then. So
yeah, that's correct.
And we never publicized it in the magazines because it's something that I did that WWF wanted to keep private at that time.
Did you never found Pedro Morales' belt?
No, I didn't.
I heard a bookstore owner was actually the one who sold it.
I actually never went after it.
Yeah.
I never went after it because this lasted a few years, and the Hall of Fame back then was kind of very shaky. It was just in the mindset of Vince and Linda McMahon and J.J. Dillon, so it never really went anywhere at that point.
Well, in '93, the WWE is in a very, very different financial standing to what they were, say, 6 years later. So at that point, it's very hard for them to really invest in those concepts when they're fighting for survival.
Absolutely.
But it shows that, the die was cast as early as 1993.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that I worked part-time for the WWE. A lot of people, as you know, think that I worked for Jim Crockett Promotions because I was on there.
You're so present.
Yeah, regularly, and that never happened. I never got paid for that. We're going to try JJ one more time before we go to the rankings. And it's Jared's birthday today. I promised him I'd wish him a happy birthday on the air.
Happy birthday, Jared.
As you know, the show's usually not this disjointed, fans. So we've had 2 guests scheduled, and actually spoke to JJ, about 2 hours ago?
Yeah.
And told him we'd be calling around 7:30. So hopefully he's okay. Meantime, Richard.
Hello.
JJ.
Hello.
JJ, it's Bill and Mike, my co-host from Australia, calling you, and we are live on the Bill Apter Video Magazine podcast.
Very good.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I remember we had you on several weeks ago, and the fans loved having you here. Mike, say hello to JJ.
Hello, JJ, all the way from Australia. Big fan of yours over the years, and got so much respect for what you've contributed to the wrestling industry.
Well, Australia, one of my favorite places in the world. I actually lived there for a year. We're talking about 1980, so a long time ago. But beautiful country and beautiful people.
Well, I see. That's something I didn't know about your career. How long did you live there for? A year? Whereabouts did you live?
I lived in Sydney and traveled Sydney up to Brisbane, up to the Cairns, Townsville, and Mackay, and then every Saturday over to Melbourne and up to one time, I think 1 or 2 trips in the year over to Perth. I never got over to the north or up to Ayers Rock, sadly. But
yeah, Mike is from Melbourne. What do you Melbourne? What do you remember?
As you guys say.
Yes. No, we say Melbourne.
Melbourne. You got to pronounce it right. It's Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne. JJ's saying it right, Bill.
Well, he was there. I haven't been there yet. So we can mention at this point that we're looking at possibly early next year with you.
Absolutely.
Mike is going to be promoting wrestling again over in Australia, and he's telling me that they're going to bring me over next year. So to do
I would love to go back there. The fans in Australia were some of the warmest and most devoted fans of all the places in the world that I traveled to. Like I said, I spent a year there and a month in New Zealand for Steve Ricard when he was promoting back then on the way over, and then a year in Australia and a month in New Zealand on the way back.
That's
so
fantastic.
Now, being a New Yorker, JJ, the only thing I knew about Australia growing up was the photos of the bikini-clad women in the New York Post. That's
well, I lived in King's Cross, which would be the Australian version of Times Square.
Oh, okay.
And there's the El Alamein Fountain, and right up at the corner, and then you went down the hill, and I was King's Cross. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it was famous from the R&R days of the Vietnam War. That's where all the Americans stayed, and that was a hotel where I stayed for a month or two until I found an apartment. But and they were building the tower, the famous tower that's now there with the basket on top. I watched that in the year that I was there. From the basket
Opera
on the
House?
ground is the tower built, Center Point Tower.
Yeah.
He knows where that is. Well, JJ, this thank you for the memories of Australia. This week, the past few weeks have been a very sad ride for us in the wrestling industry and the fans as well. And it all started off several weeks ago with the terrible death of Johnny Valiant. And I know, I know that you knew him really well.
Crossing as a pedestrian, he was struck by a truck from all reports, and he and I both started about the same time, around 1980. I was in Australia, and he was trained by Bruno Sammartino and Dominic Canucci.
Yes.
And so we started about the same time, and I wrestled against him many times.
What about the personal side of him? I remember him being a real joker. He had a great sense, and of course, in the last few years before he passed away, he was known to be a stand-up comedian. But he always had a great sense of humor when I used to travel with him on the road. What do you remember best about him?
You're talking about Johnny Valiant?
Yes.
Yeah, he was very glib and always seemed to have the right thing to say that would put a smile on your face, if not an out-and-out laughter. And he was a lot of fun to be around and very talented. He was in the ring. Never, I think, got the credit for being the great performer that he was.
You were, I assume you remember when he was paired with Jimmy Valiant and Captain Lou Albano. That was one of the great pairings of all time, and Jerry Valiant after a while as well.
Yeah, I would say that was probably the peak of his career. But when I first saw him, he was wrestling, under his legal name, and was very popular around his home where he started. And then, of course, had the great career as one of the Valiants. But he was, quite the performer and a fun guy to be around.
There's another guy that we lost the same day as Bruno, and so little has been talked about because there's been so much going on, and that was Paul Jones. Tell us about, you knew Paul Jones really well, didn't you?
Yes. When I started my full-time career in Charlotte in 71, 72. And when I went there, Paul Jones was predominantly a tag team territory. So it was an era where the Paul and Sweet Hansen, managed by Playboy Gary Hart, were there. But Paul Jones was one of the top teams, teaming with the late Nelson Royal. They were a great team. And so I got to be around Paul, travel with him, and then later on, he went to Florida and showed that he could be highly successful as a single wrestler where he was the Florida champion.
Now, do you remember, JJ, do you remember when he took the Florida championship and threw it off the Tampa Bay Bridge?
Oh, that was huge news.
Yeah.
And all the local news in particular covered it, where he took the Florida title, and it was a very unique way and typical of Paul Jones to do something to send a message that, as prestigious as the Florida title was in Paul Jones' mind, he was more important and a bigger story than the title. And so to make that point, he walked across the Gandy Bridge, got to the top, and threw the belt in the bay.
Yes. And he was also quite a great hand at technical wrestling when he got in there with people like Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr.
Yeah, if you wanted a brawl, he could brawl. And if you wanted to have a technical wrestling match, he was excellent as a traditional wrestler. He could do whatever you wanted to do. He could do it and rise to the occasion.
I remember he called himself for a while Broadway Paul Jones, and I'll never forget when he came to Madison Square Garden for one match, working for the WWF at that time. He said to me, because of the magazines, the fans knew who I was, and he said it helped boost his nickname of Broadway Paul Jones. I remember he also liked a good cigar all the time.
Yeah, he did. But, and I've said this, Bill, not just because I'm on the line with you and it's your show, but, before the internet, the magazines could make or break careers, especially if you were just starting out in the business. Yeah. And if you not only got a feature story, that was a big deal, but boy, if you ever got a cover on the magazine back then, that could just immediately catapult one's career.
Well, thank you. On behalf of everyone that I worked with at the magazines, I really appreciate that. In the latter part of his career, he became a manager.
Yes, and being standing back and being objective as I could be, I never thought that interviews were Paul Jones' strongest suit, but he was always surrounded in terms of as a manager with great talent, and so he didn't need to be a great interviewer to get the story over and to have people buy tickets to come see you perform. So Paul could do it all, really. And,
yes.
He was a great in-ring performer and enjoyed longevity by being a very successful manager too.
Yeah, thank you. And there's one fan in particular, a gentleman named Paul, who keeps sending messages up on Facebook that no one has said anything much about Paul Jones. So I'm glad you just did. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was proud to call him a friend, and he was maybe not the strongest interviewer in the world, and maybe that's the reason why he doesn't get the credit that's due. But from the time that the bell rang, he could go with anybody, and the best of them.
Yes. I remember going to his home and meeting his wife at that time and his young son. He was a very good family man as well back then.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So this past week, I was not able to attend the funeral of Bruno Sammartino. You, my pal Sal Corrente, and Davey O'Hannon took a road trip. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Well, I went to, Davey lives down close to Atlantic City, New Jersey, so I was going the opposite direction for a little bit, but I went in there the night before, stayed over, and then we got an early start, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, for what was a lengthy trip over to Pittsburgh to pay our final respects to Bruno. But it was one of those trips that was a must-do trip for me, because that's how much Bruno impacted my career and how close I regarded him as a friend. And it was nice, and Davey felt the same way. And Sal Corrente came down from New York and hooked up with us. So it was the three of us telling Bruno stories all the way across the state of Pennsylvania till we got there. And it was a tough moment. I don't do well at funerals and viewings, and
none of us do.
When I went in there, I could see the petition out, and I could see the backs of people that had their heads down. It was very solemn, and I had to take a couple of deep breaths before I could go around the corner. And when I saw Bruno laid to rest, I mean, he looked just exactly like I last saw him. He looked very much at peace. And it was a trip that I don't think I could have lived with myself the rest of my life if I've not said that Bruno was so kind to me, helped me in ways when I was young. It wasn't because it was something that I could do for him. It just was the kind of person that he was. And I needed to go and pay my last respects.
Okay, I'm glad you did. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. Do you have any current convention dates or anything where people can come and see J.J. Dillon?
I hadn't even thought about it.
Because you're at every convention that every place I go,
well,
you're there.
Of course, going to Las Vegas for Cauliflower Alley Club.
Yes.
That's an annual trip. So that's actually the first week in May. I'll be out in Vegas. So actually going out on Sunday at the end of the month, and then being there up through Thursday, and then I have a date coming up with Charlie Hartman, who's promoting an event in Virginia Beach on
my
Saturday,
buddy.
May 12th. Yeah, so he's always a pleasure to work for. He really treats the guys well.
Modern Vintage Wrestling. Yes.
Yes. And you know it's going to be very well promoted, and always look forward to working with Charlie Hartman. So I will be in Virginia Beach on Saturday, the 12th. And then actually May is a busy month for me because the following week I'll be joining my friend Matt Riviera at Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is a fundraising benefit for Special Olympics. And then Charlie Hartman's got another event on the last Saturday in May out in Circleville, Ohio, and I'm going to be there as well. And then of course it's been scheduled for over a year out, but my friend Joe Bruin is got a weekend event the end of May and the 1st of June in Providence. There's a sit-down dinner, and I think they're honoring Howard Finkel. And I'm going to be there at Providence for that weekend. So it's going to be a busy month of May, but I like keeping busy.
I know you do.
Seeing old friends.
I see you. And please, if you would, text me the information about the Howard Finkel dinner, because I'd like to.
And I hope it wasn't going to be a surprise. If it is, I let the cat out of the bag, and I apologize. But either way, Howard Finkel.
No. We're talking about Howard. We're talking about a different one. We're talking about Howard Phifnkel. He was that one. That was the guy that just ran the office of one of the indie federations. I got it.
Okay. All right, that works for me.
Oh, it's not that other guy. So JJ, thank you so very much. And you're always there when I need you. You always have been. And you're a dear friend. And it's one of the things that I always cherish in my life. I really do.
Well, it works both ways. And again, I can't emphasize enough that, before the internet and everything now that guys used to promote their careers, back in the day, the magazines were everything. And you were a key player in the magazines and always treated me kindly. And you had trouble sometimes, like with the Horsemen, getting everybody herded together for a group picture. And you would come to me and say, "Oh, I can't get everybody to get their thing clothes on." And I said, "Bill, please." I always tried to come through for you.
You always did. That classic photo of the Horsemen together was set up by you as I was running around like Jerry Lewis. Can you come here? Would you go there? And you put it all together for me. I always remember that.
Well, I'm sitting here next to my screen looking at the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated from the December 1988 issue.
That was it.
And there we are on the cover, and it's a beautiful picture and a beautiful story, and be eternally grateful for you putting that together.
Well, thanks for setting it up. I couldn't have done it without you.
Paid off.
Yeah, paid off. All right, Bill Apter with the legendary JJ Dillon. And where can people find you? Can they find you online, JJ?
I have a JJ Dillon, the JJ Dillon Show. I think it's on the Major League Wrestling Network.
Right.
And I have a podcast that's up once a week as part of that network, and it runs the loop, so it's like you don't have to be sitting at a set time. You can be in your car going somewhere and go to the Major League Wrestling Network, and somehow I'm not real good with anything electronic, but get on to the JJ Dillon Show, and I seems to be so far haven't run out of stories to tell.
No, you never will. I promise you.
Well, thank you, my friend.
And you're a great storyteller.
And sad that we lost a mutual friend in Bruno Sammartino, and I'm looking at the special display they put up at Madison Square Garden, remembering what they call the Garden Legend, Bruno Sammartino, with his picture. And God, he sold out that place so many times, and back in the day, I went many times to see him in the Garden. And proud to have called him a friend, and it was a bittersweet moment to make that trip to Pittsburgh to pay my final respects and my condolences to his family. It was a terrible loss for them, terrible loss to anybody and everybody that's had any connection throughout their lifetime with professional wrestling. He was a credit to our profession, and proud that I could call him my friend.
He was the greatest of all time. It really was.
Hey, that says it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, JJ.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye-bye. Boy, well, when you talk about history and the history of this business, JJ Dillon has always been a historian of the business here.
What a class act, though.
He is.
Very well spoken and very sharp, especially historically with the business.
Great, and I get very moved when I hear about Bruno because I chronicled his career from 1970 on. I mean, the magazines did it, but I was the one who was out there doing it. Yeah,
like you were saying to me earlier off air, Bruno was like your Ali to Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it like that, definitely takes you back. But what a blessing in your life to have that.
It really was. And if he can hear me anywhere, thank you, Bruno, for being like the first guy to endorse me to the other wrestlers, because without an endorsement from one of the wrestlers, especially back then, you were not in the business.
Yeah. So that set the tone for your trust within the industry, right?
Absolutely.
So absolutely. The performers in the business, the wrestlers felt comfortable in your presence
because
you were welcome in the dressing room.
In the Northeast, it was Bruno Sammartino who said it's okay to talk to this guy. Yeah. All right. So right now I see swimming in the distance is the Gonzo Shark. And the Gonzo Shark has got
humanoids. This is Gonzo Shark for Bill Apter's Video Magazine podcast.
SmackDown.
And I'm back to bring you this week's SmackDown Live Top 10 Men's Rankings. The final week of April, and it was a big week for SmackDown Live, so let's get right down to business. Coming in at number 10, even though he was on the losing end, he's still a beast in my eyes, is Eric Rowan. At number 9, also coming in on the losing end, but also one of the top guys on SmackDown Live, even though he fell to the bottom of the rankings this week with a loss, is the Viper, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
At number 8, pulling off a huge upset win, one half of the former SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions, Jimmy Uso. At number 7, a guy who pulled off an incredible upset win, and maybe he'll get on track right now to have a singles run and maybe a title shot. I'm talking about Shelton Benjamin.
He's back.
At number 6, it's everybody's favorite day. That's right. I'm talking about Rusev Day. Rusev takes number 6 this week. At number 5, a guy who showed that he's a coward, a guy who showed that he has no problem cheating, and a guy who's going to have an incredible heel run, if you ask me. I'm talking about none other than the artist, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Another one.
At number 4, a new face to SmackDown Live, even though he was lighting it up on SmackDown Live a little over a year ago. I'm talking about The Miz. At number 3, we have former SmackDown Live general manager, Daniel Bryan. At number 2,
climbing.
I'm not sure what show he's a part of, but I know he's been on SmackDown Live for the past 2 weeks. I'm talking about the new United States champion, Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
And at number 1, just as he is every week, because he is the guy that steals the show every week, I'm talking about the WWE champion, the phenomenal AJ Styles.
All right, AJ Styles.
That does it. That is the rankings for this week, the final week of April. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter at GonzoShark1. Until next time, the Gonzo Shark is checking out, and I'll give it back to you, Bill.
Well, Gonzo Shark, you're not checking out until you give us the WWE.
What's up, humanoids? It's Gonzo Shark
rankings.
Again for Bill Apter's Video Magazine podcast. Yes. And I'm going to give you your WWE Women's Top 10 rankings for the final week of April. So let's get right down to business. Coming in at number 10 is Bayley. At number 9 is a woman who's new to Raw, and she's found herself a best friend, or a very good friend, and one of the baddest women on the planet. I'm talking about maybe Ronda Rousey's new best friend. I'm talking about Natalya.
Yeah.
At number 8, the boss, Sasha Banks. At number 7, straight fire, Becky Lynch. At number 6, the most legitimate woman in WWE, a woman that could probably break my arm. I'm talking about Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
I see a fast
At number 5, former Raw Women's Champion, Alexa Bliss. At number 4, the newest member of SmackDown Live Women's roster, the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. At number 3,
love her,
the woman who will challenge the new SmackDown Live Women's Champion in just a few short weeks. I'm talking about former SmackDown Live Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair. At number 2, the new SmackDown Live Women's Champion, Carmella. And at number 1, the biggest, baddest woman on the WWE women's roster, I'm talking about Raw Women's Champion, Nia Jax. That does it for this week's Women's Rankings. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter at GonzoShark1. Look for me on Facebook.com/GonzoShark1. Look for all of my material at OneWrestling.com, Vince Russo's The Brand, and WrestlingWithWrestling.com. Until next time, the Gonzo Shark is checking out. Back to you, Bill.
Swimming into the dangerous waters. Nia Jax, by the way, I keep saying there needs to be a romance or a team with Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
She's Braun Strowman-esque.
That's
Does
true.
that make sense?
There's similarities, yeah.
Now, I saw you make a face when number 10 was Bayley.
I was like, yeah. I'm surprised she's that low in the rankings.
Okay, so what else would you have adjusted in his rankings there?
Not sure, but I would have maybe ahead of Lynch.
Yeah.
Maybe ahead of Lynch, maybe around 6 or 7. I was just like, wow. But
Bayley was very low.
But look, I got to say I'm wowed by of all the people involved in wrestling, Bill Apter would be the hand I want to shake most.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Brad,
I can tell you it's a very nice hand to shake.
Thank you. And this is for you.
But hopefully one day you are blessed, because this man here is wrestling royalty to me.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And again, we go back a long way, but this is the first time we ever met.
It's
incredible.
Yes. It's incredible.
Yes. I want to get to some of your comments here. Get the Tables podcast. Who do you have winning, Mr. Apter? My pick is Daniel Bryan or Braun Strowman.
You got to go one or the other. I'm going strong Strowman. So
I think he's going to get screwed, and I think it's going to be Daniel Bryan. Even though Daniel Bryan is injured, something's going to happen.
Is that Sami Zayn? You know how many times I've been called Sami Zayn at wrestling shows, Bill?
Is that? Yeah. Wait a minute. Take the hat off. Take that. It is. That's right. That is.
Just with an Aussie accent, guys. I'm sorry.
That's unbelievable. By the way, where can people find you on social media, Mike?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find me. So on Twitter, MJ Altamura, ALTAMURA. So MJ Altamura on Twitter, MJ Altamura on Instagram, or just put my name on Facebook, Mike Altamura. But
spell your last name.
It's ALTAMURA. But yeah, I'm happy to hear from any of you guys and happy to connect. I just appreciate having the platform to sit here beside you, Bill.
Well, I'm glad you're on the platform here. It's a nice platform.
The platform's solid.
It's really not bad. The man said, "Hey, you pencil neck geek," and I answered you before. You're a pencil neck geek too.
It must be me.
I don't know.
Got a long neck. Maybe
I don't know. Maybe. Richard Bain. Hey, Bill. When did you last talk to Mr. Wrestling number 2? About 3 or 4 months ago. Talked to him, and he was okay. He was all right, and he still sounded like him. You know, when he's on the phone, he's kind of like this. But when he gets kind of revved up, he's still, well, you know, I could have beaten Tommy Rich. You know, he comes out with that.
Yeah.
Travis Volts, Bill Apter's book and the audio version are both great. Thank you so much, Travis. And by the way, my apologies for hitting the wrong button tonight on your Raw ratings, but those were great retro ratings, weren't they?
Oh, definitely. It was. Hey,
From
at
3 weeks
at
ago.
least we adjusted. More airtime.
Yes,
more airtime.
absolutely.
Right? That's a positive.
Absolutely, Mr. Apter, sir, David Bass. Have you had a chance to speak to Stan Hansen? I have not. I will try and get him as a guest on our show here to try and talk about Bruno. And I know he wanted to go to the funeral. He was unable to go, and he was very upset about that. I got that through several people who were at the funeral. Dennis Bridgewater, Paul Heyman, it's Heyman. I'm an editor. What can I tell you? Should buy the license of ECW South Philly Bingo Hall. He should. You're right. Let's see. Nasty Nate, dream match. Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy versus Big Boss Man and Akeem. Did you have a dream match growing up?
It wasn't that match.
No. Did you have a dream match?
Dream match growing up. That's a great question.
Yeah.
There was the obvious ones, like growing up, you wonder how would Hogan go with Flair?
Yeah.
How the styles will mix. There was a few, like for me, it was always like how the big men. I would have loved like Bruiser Brody versus Vader at their best.
Oh God, that would.
It's just great. Like, because I think even though they're two big guys, it would have been chaos.
Yes,
it would have been fun, intense.
Yes,
that's probably one of them. Then a lot of them are just like tag matches, like Rock and Roll Express versus the Hardys.
Oh, of course. Oh, I would have. Rock and Roll's in their prime.
Yeah, but then like the '80s tag teams, you got Midnight Express, the Fantastics, the Malenkos. You interchange them with the Hardys. Just that mix of thinking how to present the British Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Like tag team wrestling in the 80s was phenomenal in terms of the pace that those guys could go at. The Road Warriors were different.
The Road Warriors broke new ground.
Yeah.
They broke new ground. There was never a team before them like them, and there've been a lot of imitations.
Correct. Yeah.
You guys know who I'm talking about right now. But there've been a lot of people trying to be Road Warriors. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. We are a little over our usual 1 hour. I want to thank J.J. Dillon. Robbie E., I don't know what happened to you. We were looking forward to having you on the show, so maybe we can do it next week. And Mike, I want to thank you so much. And again, if you're in Philadelphia on Saturday night at the Leah Chorus Center.
Yep.
One more time.
Please come out, check the fight, support my kid, Isaac Royal Storm Dog Bay, 18 wins, no losses, all the way from Accra, Ghana. Should be a great event. There's like 8 fights on the card. The 3 top main fights, they're all like a flip of the coin.
Yeah.
It's a great card, so come support. If you can't, please be watching on ESPN. You won't want to miss this one, I'm telling you.
Right.
And enjoy tomorrow night from Saudi Arabia.
All right. Yes, that's going to be incredible. Bill Apter, Michael, tomorrow you need to point out to the cameras, we'll see you. Take it.
At the matches.